VC. This is a contest entry for Richard McCook. He's basically done a contest titled My 3 Years in the VC contest. So this is an entry into that. So yeah, thank you for this contest, Richard, and congratulations for your 3 years in the vinyl community. He's a brilliant YouTuber, Richard is, and he puts out sometimes 2 or 3 videos a week, some weeks, and yeah, he's very deserving of all the support, subscribers he gets. It's very well deserved. So thank you, Richard. So Richard has basically asked us to show 3 artists' best and worst albums. 3 albums we have on CD which aren't on vinyl, which we want on vinyl, and 3 artists where basically their greatest hits is enough, rather than have all their albums. Their greatest hits would suffice. So I'm going to start with the Rolling Stones. I don't have all the Rolling Stones albums, as their library is just huge. But my favourite so far is Some Girls, which Martin, the vinyl scavenger, kindly VCLT'd it to me last year. Yeah, I've always liked this album, and I think it's their best. So that would be my best for the Rolling Stones. Their worst, I guess, would be in the late 80s, in that 80s period where they were experimenting. Some were kind of hits and some weren't, and this one I don't think was. And that is the Rolling Stones' Steel Wheels. So yeah, it seems to be in this time period they kind of flopped a bit. My second artist I'm going to show is Tom Petty. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. This doesn't include his solo work, so the likes of Full Moon Fever and Wildflowers aren't in this lot, so to speak. But I think most people would probably vouch for Damn the Torpedoes. I would have thought most people would have said that is his best, and they could well be right. My personal favourite, I mean, I do like that album, don't get me wrong, but my personal favourite is Echo, which came out, I think it was 99. And yeah, I really like this, and this is not considered his best either, but yeah, I've always liked it. Anyway, his worst is really more of his sort of later music, really. There was a bit of a tough decision. They're not like bad or anything like that. They're just not as good as some of the earlier ones. And I went for The Last DJ in the end as his worst. My third artist is Oasis. This was tough. Their best album is very, very tough. I think most people would vouch for What's the Story, Morning Glory, and that's understandable. It's a great album, it really is. Personally, I think their debut just has the edge over it. I just prefer Liam Gallagher's vocals rather than the Knowles vocals on What's the Story, Morning Glory. This is just a bit more of a raw, more of aggressive kind of sound, and they're a bit more angrier in this. You know, they have a lot to say about the politics of the time. And of course, that would be definitely Maybe, which I think came out in '94. I know it's the biggest selling debut album of that era. I think it was later outdone years later. But anyway, I think the worst, yet again, is like their later end of their library. This wasn't easy to decide, but I went with Dig Out Your Soul in the end. I think that's just fractionally worse than the 3 later releases they had. Right, yes, the CDs. All my CDs, well, virtually all my CDs are in my attic, so I can't showcase them without going in the attic and dig them all out, which is a pain. So I'm just going to sort of show them on screen. I think all of them are 90s releases, and of course, as you know, 90s are a lot of the albums didn't get pressed to vinyl. One of them in particular I would like to have on vinyl would be Madness, Wonderful Madness, which came out I think in '99. It has the hit song Love Struck on there, which you don't tend to see that track in many places. I don't think they include it on greatest hits albums either for some reason. And the second album which I would like to see on vinyl would be Space, Tin Planet, as you can see, which came out in I think '97. I think it was released. It was actually my very first CD album I actually bought, so I have that kind of connection with it. Not like it's a brilliant album, it's just the nostalgia for me. And there is a couple of others. There is a compilation I like to see on vinyl, which I don't think there is any of, and that's James. You can buy his albums on vinyl, but I don't think there is any compilations. And this came out, I don't know, in the late 90s, and I'd love to see a pressing of this, or just a compilation of theirs on vinyl. I am kind of cheating here, because he did actually say albums rather than compilations. But yeah, my guilty pleasure will probably be this album I'd like to see on vinyl. So yeah, for nostalgia reasons, yeah, I won't go much further into it than that. And thirdly, artists where their greatest hits or a compilation will suffice. Yeah, this may upset a few people, but hey ho, this is all subjective. I think a Billy Joel greatest hits is enough for me. I mean, I do have 2 or 3 of his other albums, but I think generally a greatest hits of Billy Joel, especially this one. This is like two discs, and this one is enough. Secondly, I would say Peter Gabriel. I know his first 4 albums were hugely popular, and yeah, for me, I never really seem to get into him. It's a bit of a required taste. I like his hits, but his actual albums, I don't really need. You know, I think this Shaking the Tree compilation is enough for to get me by if I needed a Peter Gabriel hit. It's got the hit Solbury Hill on there, Sledgehammer. I mean, what more do you want? And yeah, another hit maker, I would say, because that's really what he's asking in a way, is the hit makers over the albums, and I would go for the '60s band. Well, actually lasted a lot longer than the '60s. I think they went all the way up to the noughties, I think. The Hollies. But the '60s and the '70s was their prime era. They were hit makers. They had a lot of good hits, and I think a compilation like this would do. Holly's Greatest would do for most people, and a particular favourite of mine, which came out in the '70s, I think, is the Hollies 20 Golden Greats. Great compilation this is. They never really had great albums. I don't know why. The albums just, it wasn't there, like the quality, you know, compared to like the quality of the Beatles albums, which was of the time. But the Hollies albums, you don't really need. You know, I think with the Hollies, their albums are very mediocre, really. And I think really the straw that broke the camel's back when Graham Nash left the band, when the Dylan album came out, I think he just really had enough, and this this change in scene was just enough to make him leave the band and join the super band, the super group, Crosby, Stills, Nash, and I have many of them. There is a lot of Holly's albums out there, but no, I think our greatest hits would do most people. But anyway, thank you, Richard, and I'll see everyone in my next video next time round. Bye for now.